Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on the Succah daf Mem Gimel, we are going to begin on the bottom of Mem Beis Amud Beis by the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom. So we were learning that sometimes when it comes to the mitzvah of lulav, that it's for 6 days, sometimes for 7. If the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, so we say that we will take the lulav on Shabbos. However, if it's any other day, if let's say for example the first day of Sukkot is on a Wednesday, so of course we'll take the lulav on Wednesday for Yom Tov, but we will not take the lulav on Shabbos. On this the Gemara asks, Amai, tilta ba'almahu, l'idchei Shabbos. What's the whole issue of handling a lulav and esrog? The whole issue is tiltal, moving it around. Why would we say that you're not allowed to shake the lulav and esrog on Shabbos any other time? Gemara answers the famous answer. Rabbi, Lilmod, as we continue Mem Gimel Mad Aleph, the Yavirenu Arba Amos Rishus Rabbim. Because you may bring it into the Rishus Rabbim in order to be able to ask someone, how do I do this mitzvah? So you're going to go to a Bucky, and he's not in your house. Clearly there's no people knowledgeable in your house, because you need to go on the street to figure this out. And you end up violating Havara, carrying on Shabbos. And therefore, we don't want you to end up violating this. Hainu time of the shofar, hainu time of the Megillah. Which is the same reason when it comes to shofar as well as Megillah, we've instituted that Purim cannot fall out in Shushan. It can, but for us, the 14th of Adar cannot fall out on a Shabbos. But imagine that it would, we would not read Megillah Esther that year. Same thing with the shofar. When Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, we do not blow the shofar, which is an unbelievable vort. That because of this one guy that may carry the lulav, or in this case, carry the shofar, in the Rishus Harabim, so all the millions of people in Klal Yisrael who would benefit so much from the schus of hearing the Tekiyah shofar, to do tshuva, and for Hashem to remember our avos, nonetheless, that one yid that could make a mistake from all the way down there is more significant than all of Klal Yisrael being able to do the mitzvah of shofar. Unbelievable thought. So, Yom Rishanami. If there's an issue that this person may end up carrying the lulav in order to learn how to shake it, so then why do we say that if the first day of Sukkot falls on Shabbos, that it's okay? Well, it shouldn't be okay. Our answer is Rishon Hatakinuli Rabbanon Beveso, as we saw in our Mishnah in yesterday's daf, that no, the lulav was masakin, it's in the house. So therefore, everyone knew that it was not to be brought outside of your house. So Hatinoch Acher Takana. That makes sense after they made that institution. Koidim Takana Malkim Eimor. Before that, they all had it brought to the Harabayas, as we said, and they realized it wasn't a good thing. But the question is, how could they allow it? Person may carry it on Shabbos. Elo Rishon Di'isa Min HaTorah B'Gvulin. This is the explanation. On the first day of Sukkot, in which the Torah does tell us we have to take the lulav and esrog, and it's also even B'Gvulin outside of Eretz Yisrael, outside of the Beis HaMikdash, Lo Gozer Rabbanan. The Chachamim are not going to be geyser because the pasuk tells us that there's a chiyuv to do it. So Hanach, the Leis Nehum Min HaTorah B'Gvulin, Gozer Rabbanan. All these other things in which there's no mentioning of a mitzvah to them to do this in Gvulin, so there are Gozer Rabbanan. So again, when it comes to the first day, it's considered to be very chashuv that even outside of the Beis HaMikdash, you're chayiv, so the Rabbanan were not going to be Gozer. Not in the Gvul, not in the Mikdash. However, any other day in which it's not in the Torah says, V'katacham b'yom Rishon. So because of that, the Chachamim were Gozer this chumrah that on Shabbos we're not going to allow you to carry it. Well, you can't carry it, but to shake it. Also in the Mikdash, not allowed either. Okay. And so on this Rashi asks, "V'nim timer nimsu beistin masin l'akar dabam in the Torah." Sounds like they're removing a mitzvah in the Torah. So it's brought down Mistach Neshivamas, Shanin and Sheval Tasa Shani. When it comes to Sheval Tasa, it's not a kum vaseh. They're not telling you to go and do a violation. They're just saying, sit there and do nothing. So that the Chachamim do have more of a leeway to be able to have someone do a Sheva al Tasa than a Kumase. Ayin Rashi. So the Gemara says, okay, so Ihachi in the Nami. So then nowadays, when we're talking about outside of Eretz Yisrael, so we know outside of Eretz Yisrael, the reality is that on the first day, even Bizman Azed should be a chiyuv to shake the lulav and esrog, even if it's on Shabbos. No, Anam liyadin b'kviusa diercha. We outside are not experts in all these different the time of when the new moon is. That's why we have the Sveka Diyoma. We have a second day of Yom Tov. So inhun did b'kviusa diercha delilchus. Okay, fine. But how about the people in Eretz Yisrael that were Bekim because they were close to the Beis Din? So it should be pushed off. So Gemara says Enochanami. You're right. It's true. Bizman Azeh, in the Beis Hamikdash or in that surrounding, they should be able to do so because of their knowledge that it's indeed the first day of Yom Tov. After all, Ditnan or Ditnan or Tani Chada. B'Yom Tov Yishan Shalchach Shechol Yos B'Shabbos. So the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos. Kol Amalichin is Loveim L'Har Bayis, which means that they would actually shake the lulav and esrog on Shabbos. V'Tani Idach L'Beis Achneses. One place says in the Shul. So Shema Minah Kam Izman Shebeis Hamikdash Kayim. Kam Izman Shein Beis Hamikdash Kayim Shema Minah. So this is actually a right, at least in the Havamina, that they're both talking about in Yerushalayim or using the language of the Gemara, in who they, those who are in Eretz Yisrael, are not in the Chutz La'aretz, so they should in fact shake the lulav and esrog than they did on Shabbos. They would do it in the Har Bayis, and the time when there's no Beis Hamikdash, they did it in their Beis Achnesas. So the Isam in the Torah B'Gvul Minon. The question is, how do we see a pasuk that tells us that outside of Eretz Yisrael there's a chiyuv of shaking the lulav and esrog on the first day? This Tanya. The pasuk is that everyone is supposed to take it. As we said many times, it's mishalachem l'hoitzis hashavos and gozel. It cannot be borrowed, it cannot be stolen. Biyom is v'fil b'Shabbos. The fact that it says biyom, which is the same drasha we say by bris milah, even on Shabbos we would shake the lulav and esrog. Rishon afil b'gvulin. So the fact that it says Rishon, it says we'll always take it, even outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Says Rashi, Lav mirabuye dorish, ela lokachtem biyom Rishon. Really, it's the drush is lokachtem biyom Rishon. So pirish mikdash mashma afil b'gvulin. Okay, the fact that it doesn't mention that it should be taken in the mikdash, only it's mashma even in the gvulin. Okay, so that's the drasha. Harishon malamashena deicha el yom rishon bilvad. Since it says harishon, so the extra hay is actually a miyut. It's coming to exclude. It says no. It's only if it's the first day and that's it. Omer mar biyom efil b'Shabbos lamichti tiltul ba'almahu. It's a krolish lemishri tiltul. The whole issue is a muksa item. So why would we need a pasuk to allow you to violate Issa D'Rabbanan? Obviously, that can't be what the pasuk is coming to tell you. Rabbi Nisracha el machshirei lulav yalib d'haitana. Even the machshiri lulav. The pasuk is coming to say that even the machshiri lulav is daicha Shabbos. For example, to cut it off if it's attached to the ground, you can even detach it on Shabbos, like we find according to this Tana, the Sanya. Lulav v'chol machshirav daichnas Shabbos dibra Eliezer, which you can see on the side is the 19th parak of Masechta Shabbos or Belez Mila. That he holds that even machshiri mitzvahs daicha Shabbos. So my time with Rabbi Eliezer, why is he so lenient that he even allows you to cut off the lulav on Shabbos? Makra biyom is v'afil b'Shabbos. Rabbanon ha biyom ma'avidlei. How do they learn this pasuk? He's not coming to tell you Shabbos because they don't allow machshiri mitzvah, and that's the only problem with a lulav because otherwise it's just tiltul be'alma. So you don't need a pasuk to matter it. So meboile biyom b'bulaylis come to tell you no, they just take the lulav and esrog dafka during the day, and the mitzvah is not at night. Rabbi Lezer biyom b'bulayim manoli. How does he know that we don't take the lulav at night? So nafkalim is safe to crow. What does it say at the end of the pasuk? The pasuk says explicitly it's for days and not night. Rabbanan. Ima hasam habamina leil of yomim yom Sukkah. You would maybe make a gzer shava to Sukkah. Many times we saw it. Sometimes lulav is compared to Sukkah, or vice versa. Malho and yom afil leilos avkan nami yom afil leilos. You would maybe make a mistake and think just like a Sukkah is day and night, so to a lulav is day and night. So the Sukkah group of Nolan. How do we know the Sukkah taka is day and night? They're talking about it. The Sukkah's taste is Shiva Yomim. Now it says 7 days, which is a little bit of a curveball, but nonetheless we learn out Yom Afil Leilos. So after Yom Afil Leilos, so ain't no Yom Below Leilos. It says days, which maybe that comes to exclude nights. But Dinu, never kan Yom, never below Yom. Malahalan Yom Below Leilos. We know when it comes to lulav is only during the day and not at night. Avkan Yom Below Leilos. Maybe when it comes to a Sukkah, also the same din as day and not night. Or klach derech zu. Nemer kan yamim and nemer b'meluyim yamim. It says, as is brought down Rashi, regarding the inauguration, u'pesach ol moed teishvu yomim v'layla. It says that it was day and night, that 7-day process. The meluyim was for 7 days, Rashi and nights. And Rashi says, meluyim mitzivasim kohayom le'shiva azara. They were commanded to dwell in the Azara, and not to leave. They were not allowed to leave for 7 days. So there's an element of like dwelling in the Azara, which is an interesting concept. How we also learned in the beginning of this Masechta about the minimal dimensions of a sukkah, perhaps was learned out from the Aral and the Kaparas. So we're comparing it to the Mikdash in numerous ways. So maybe also over here, that we're comparing it to Meluyim. That the dinim of the Shiva Shemei Meluyim was day and night, so to a sukkah. Malhan Yom Hilelos, Avkan Yom Hilelos. So Nilmi Daima. Dun Davar Shemitzvasa Kol Yom, and Davar Shemitzvasa Kol Yom. We should compare one which the mitzvah is all day to the other one. Davar Shemitzvasa Shachas. Don't compare it to a lulav and esrog. You shake it, as we said, you just pick it up and you did the mitzvah, that's it. You fulfill the mitzvah. So maybe it makes more sense to compare the sukkah to Meluyim. The other way around. Done and davar shemitzvasel l'daris, davar shemitzvasel l'daris. Yachich meluyim shein mohag l'daris. Meluyim was a one-time shot deal, so maybe we can't compare it to sukkah to that. Maybe it makes more sense to compare sukkah to lulav, and therefore that means that sukkah is only during the day and not at night. So on this, the Gemara says, Talmud Loimus, we continue Mem Gimel Mebeis, Teishvu Gzer Shava. So there's a Gzer Shava. Ma nemar kan teishvu nemar b'meluyim teishvu malhon yom afilelos avkan yom afilelos, which is an unbelievable vart. 99% of the people do not know this idea. Most people think, yeah, it's Sukkah's day and night. But the question is, it says by lulav kach kamiyam rishon, but it says Sukkah's yomim. It says Sukkah's teishvu shem yomim. So why would you think that? Why is the Sukkah at day and night? The pasuk doesn't say at night. The answer is because we went off in meluyim, from the meluyim. That's how we know that we sit in the sukkah just like they dwelled in the Azara. Day and night, so too, we're supposed to be there as well day and night. It's an unbelievable vart. Again, most people aren't aware of a very simple question. Why do you have to sit in the sukkah at night when the pasuk does not say that? The answer is, it's a Gzer Shava, but to teach by the Meluyim. Viter. A Rabba Shiva Ketza. So now we talked about the lulav. So now the question is, what's the din when it comes to the Rabba? Actually, fine. A Rava Shiva Ketzat. So we said, if the Shabbos is the 7th day of Sukkot, then we will do the mitzvah of a Rava, otherwise we won't. So Rava B'Shvi, my time of Dachi Shabbos. What's so special about the 7th day, which again is Hoshana Rabbah? Rabbi Yochanan today, Lefarsa Mashim in the Torah. We want to publicize that the notion of taking the Rava in the Beis HaMikdash is actually a din min HaTorah. It's something which is D'Oraisa. So therefore, in order to show its significance, it's even Deicha Shabbos. Okay. So on the 7th day, we should also, if let's say Sukkot is on the 7th day, we should also take the lulav. This way people should know that the lulav is from the Torah. No, lulav gzer mishum derabba. We mentioned already that, yeah, technically we would take it, but we're concerned of that one yid that's going to end up carrying it dal dalmas versus a rabbah. So maybe we should also have the same concern that when it comes to our Rava, people are going to start walking around with this Rava. So why would we allow it to be Deicha Shabbos? So Rava shluchei based in Ma'isila Lulabachol Ma'isir. Very famous answer that we find many other places. Now when it comes to the Rava, It's something which is done in the base of Mikdash. So it's shulchan based, and this is unique to a certain group of experts. They would not make the mistake to carry it outside. Mashen can a lulav, which is something which all the people are trying to become this mitzvah. So therefore, it's more of a legitimate concern when it comes to the lulav that a person may actually end up carrying it outside. Not so by the Rabbi. Hachi tokol yom nami lidchi. If we're pushing off because there's no issue of the gezer of a Rabbi when it comes to the Rabba, so you should do the same thing. You should say all the days. You should always, no matter when Shabbos falls, you should always be able to fulfill the mitzvah of a Rabba. Right? It may end up causing problems when it comes to the dinim of the lulav, which basically what it means. Rashi says zilzuli b'lulav. It's going to end up making the lulav look less chashiv. If we see that the lulav gets pushed off, but the Rabba doesn't get pushed off, it makes people see the lack of think there's less chashivas in the lulav, which is not less chashivas. It's just because it's more applicable to more people, and the gezeras could happen. So v'lidchi miyom tov rishon. So why don't we just keep everything consistent? If Shabbos is on the first day of Sukkot is Shabbos, just like you can take the lulav, so you should also be able to take the Rabba then. Why the seventh day? So lo mucha milsa, it wouldn't be very clear. Amri lulav hu de kodachi. They'll say, you know why you're doing this for the Rabba? It's because of the koyach of the lulav. So b'lidchim b'chad b'hanach. So choose a different day. Kivan de kamafkis la merishon ukma shvi. Since it can't be on the first, so we do it on the last. So we do it on the seventh. That's why Hoshana Rabbah took its form, because it can't be on the first day, so the Chashivas is on the seventh day. So how come nowadays we should also push it off of the Rabbah? Not only we don't know the dinim of when Yom Tov really is. When is the seventh day? So so those in Eretz Yisrael who do know, it should be pushed off. So Kiyasa Rav Hedya Aimer Lo Ikla, which means it's not possible for it to happen. As I said, Purim can never fall out on Shabbos. The Yodalad Adar was created in the calendar that it would never happen. So too, for the seventh day of Sukkot to fall out on Shabbos is not possible. It says Rashi Ikla Haim Marvinas Elul O echad min hachadashim kisharoyin shira shvi b'Shabbos. Okay. Kiyasa Ravin v'chol nechusi amri ikli. It did happen. V'lo dochi. It wasn't pushed off. El kasha. So then we're back to our question. If it does happen, why don't we push it off now? They know. So Rav Yosef man lemulan the Rabba minatila dilma b'zekifa. Who told you when we're talking about the taking of a Rabba? We're talking about Natila, says Rashi. The Rabba b'mikdash, Natila taking it in the mikdash, the lidchi, hashta Rabba isur min rabbanan zecha mikdash, the nidchi Shabbos, dilma b'zekifa. Lo haya noita noisa b'yad. They didn't actually take it with their hands. El zaik v'noisa b'tzidim mizbech. L'chud. They would just take a very large willow, and they used to have it draping, as we'll see later on, over the mizbech. Since there's no mizbech, you can't do it. So you thought all along when we were talking about the mitzvah of a Rava, we were talking about taking the Rava and like marching around with these Ravos. No. It's talking about the Zekifa. It's talking about laying it on the mizbech. But there's no mizbech, so obviously you can't do it. So therefore, even though we do know the right dates, but practically we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. And since practically we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, therefore it's not something which can be done. Eisvia by lulav a Rabba Shish V'Shiva. My lulav k'lulav. My lulav and the tila, a Rabba and the tila. They're both about handling the tila, not the zakifa. And the area hakadis vakadisa. They're different things. You can't compare the two. That's not a raya. Eisvia by b'chol yoyim makifan es mizbech. Pamachas. Every day they would go around the mizbech one time, similar to the way it was done in Yericho. But Osen Hayom Sheba Pamim, and on the seventh day they did it 7 times, which is what we do on Hoshana Rabbah. My la bel Rabbah, so it doesn't mean you march around with your Rabbah. Lo, talking about Belulav, you walk around like we do every day of Sukkot, and we say Hoshanas. we walk around with a lulav. I b'chomer Rav Nachman and Rabbi Ravua ba'Rava. Amalei hu amalach ba'Rava v'hana amina lulav. Fine, he says a Rava. That's not what we hold. We say it's a lulav, and it's not a question. Itmar b'lezer amar b'lulav. Rav Shmuel bar Nasan amar Rav Chanina ba'Rava. L'cheina amar Rav Nachman and Rabbi Ravua ba'Rava. Amalei Rav Yitzchak b'reid Rabbi bar Barchana bar Uriah, the son of Uriah. Tav emelach milsam al yosed havi yomer rabuch. Come and tell some great thing your father said. Had nan kol hayam akifan es mizbech b'machas. They would go around once. Ve'oisa hayam akifan oisa mizbech sheva pamim. And on that day they would go around 7 times. Hachiyam rabuch b'shemida Rebbe Lezer b'lulav. Talmud, the case of a lulav. So again, according to him, it's not a raya in any situation because maybe that's maybe what we're talking about over here is b'zakifa. Okay. Eisvei lulav deiches Shabbos. So it says that a lulav is deiches Shabbos, but chilaso at the beginning. In other words, if it's the first day of Sukkot is on Shabbos, that's deicha that day. V'rabba sofo, if the 7th day of Sukkot is Shabbos, then the Rava is deicha. Pa'amachas chal shvi'i shel Rava liyos b'Shabbos. One time it turned out the 7th day of a Rava of Sukkot fell on Shabbos. V'haviu Marboyo Yishel Rabba, and they brought these willows, Me'er Shabbos, and they put them in the Azara. Be'kir behen by Toisin, the Baitosim found them. V'notlum, and it says the language of V'notlum, and they took their rubbers. V'kovshum tachas avanim, and they hid them under stones. And Rashi says, V'yodim him v'chachamim, they knew they knew that there's no way that the rabbis are going to move stones to be able to get them on Shabbos. So l'machar hikir b'hem ami aretz, but it weren't chachamim that noticed it. It was amaratzim that noticed it. V'shamtum mitachas avanim, so they took it from underneath the stones. And maybe they weren't supposed to, but they're amaratzim and they didn't know any better. V'havim hakohanim, so the kohanim came, and here's the word the zokfum, the sin mizbeach, and they put them upright against the mizbeach. V'yishein by toisin moedim shechibot arava deiches Shabbos. According to them, they felt that doing this ceremony with the arava should not be done on Shabbos, and therefore that's the reason why they stuck it underneath some rocks. But it kind of backfired because the Amaratzim found it and not the Chachamim, so they just took it. Alma b'netilahi. So we see clearly that this whole issue is netila. That's what we're talking about, of taking it. So tiyavta. So again, the question is, so why isn't it pushed off? So since we don't push it off, they don't push it off either. Since the people outside of Eretz Yisrael don't push it off, so therefore the people here also in Eretz Yisrael, they also don't push it off. So v'ha yom tov rishon duledidan lodachi doledhu. However, on Yom Tov, regarding to the lulav, where we don't push it off, but they do push it off. So, in other words, Shabbos, they do take the lulav. So, why are we saying that pshat by the arava, but by the lulav, we see that it doesn't matter what we do in Gvulin. They still take the lulav regardless, as we continue Mem Dalman Aleph. No. They also, it's not daich, it says Rashi, Sholas Yisrael Gudos Igudos, so that we don't look like we're in different groups. V'nira kishtech tayros, deladidan lodachi lulav Shabbos. So therefore, we don't say that we take it, they don't take it. So it's not true. Even they didn't take the lulav then either. Ve'elakasha, hani tarti de tanachad kol yom alichin es levan b'har bayis. We said that if the first day of Sukkot comes, that they would take the lulav him into the harbayis. So tanya yidach lebeisach neses umetarit sinan, and we already gave the answer. Kan bizman shebeis hamikdash kaim, kan bizman shein beis hamikdash kaim. What do we say? That in the Beis Hamikdash, they bizman shebeis hamikdash kaim, they would keep in the harbayis. When it's not the time of the Beis Hamikdash, the people in Eretz Yisrael, they put it in their Beis HaKnesses. So we see the fact that in Gvulin, outside of Eretz Yisrael, that we don't take the lulav and esrog, that doesn't make any difference. They would still take it. No. Well, we're going to stop there. In other words, the only time the lulav was actually taken was only in time of the Beis Hamikdash. It was only Deicha Shabbos in the Beis time, the Zman Beis Hamikdash Kayim. In the Beis Hamikdash, it was obviously in the Har Bayis. In Gvulin, we also took the lulav on the first day of Sukkot on Shabbos. We kept it in our Beis HaKnesses. We were too far away to go to Shul. I guess we were in oil regal for whatever reason, so we stayed in Shul. And that's the explanation. However, when the Beis Hamikdash is not here, even though they're experts still in Kviyat D'Ercha, but because it's not Deicha for us, it's not Deicha for them either. So again, in order that we're consistent, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, everyone took the lulav and esrog, either in the Beis Hamikdash or in the Shul. When the Beis Hamikdash is no longer around, doesn't matter if they know or we don't know. Regardless, no one takes the lulav anymore on Shabbos, which of course is the halacha. Question 6. So we said, so how do we answer this in the Havamina Maskana? So again, in the Havamina, it says in the Har Bayis or the Shul. Which one? So in the Havamina, we thought one. It's all talking about in the time in the Beis Hamikdash or in Yerushalayim, let's say. Zman Beis Hamikdash Kaim, it was done there, and when the Beis Hamikdash was not Mekayim in Eretz Yisrael, they would have it in Shul. Maskana is no. It's all referring to the Zman Beis Hamikdash Kaim, and in the Gvulin is where it was taken in the Shul. However, when the Beis Hamikdash no longer is standing, so not only in Gvulin do we not take the lulav, even if it's the first day of Sukkot is on Shabbos, so too in Eretz Yisrael, where the Beis Hamikdash stood in that area, we'll also not take the lulav either. TA 23. Madua belulav. How come when it comes to the lulav, Gazru Shemi Abarenu, maybe you'll carry it, Rabbi B'yom Shvi Lo Gazru. However, when it comes to the Arava, we were not geyser. So what is the reason for that distinction? So we said in the Gemara, Arava Shluchim based in Ma'isi Lo Lulav Chol Moser. Okay. Vayter Madua Arava Deicha Shvi V'loy B'Rishon. Why the 7th and not the 1st? So he said that there were misak in the Shvi Kedei Lafar Samashim in a Torah. Rishon, if it was done on the 1st, people are going to say is only done agav the lulav. So therefore, to contrast it, the koyach of the lulav is on the 1st, and then the hoshan for the arava is on the 7th. Okay. Question 24. Madua b'lulav noitin b'zman hazeh shiva zecha mikdash rava ein noitin shiva zecha mikdash. That'll be tomorrow's daf. TB 24. Mehem gimel ha'afanim shenemru b'gemara l'taritz madua ein arava deicha Shabbos b'zman hazeh. Why is the arava not deicha af l'vnei Eretz Yisrael she'eda b'kivusha d'yercha? After all, they are experts in this. So one is shahayum avrim es elul o echad min hachadashim lo ikul yom arava b'Shabbos, that when they set up the months, it never fell out that the Yom Arava would fall on Shabbos, which we said, well, it actually did happen. Second answer, Sholhai Night on the Rabba b'Mikdash, they didn't actually take their Rabba el Zayfin. All they did was have it on the top of the Mizbeach, or over the Mizbeach, the Ein Kan Zecha Mikdash Yidcha b'Shabbos. Obviously, you can't do that now the Beis Hamikdash is not here, there's no Mizbeach. And thirdly, Shikivan Didan Lo Dachi, since outside we don't take the Arava, we did Hu Nami Lo Dachi, we also will not take Sholasa Yisrael Gudos Agudos, so we should not look like there's two different Torahs that we're all doing things differently.